Morning, everybody. Oh, man. Derek has been kicking my butt. Huge props to Jillian for showing up for a second morning in a row. I'll tell you right now, man, people that show up for a couple days, the likelihood they'll show up for a couple more is really high. People that show up for a week, you're going to show up for 2. People that show up for 2 will show up for a month. It gets easier to show up. Egad. So I was talking with the Jedis, Travis and Shannon, about a podcast that I've been listening to. I don't know if I've probably mentioned the Tim Ferriss podcast before, but it's other than the fact that for some really strange reason it puts our buddy G Money to sleep, which is super weird. That was super noisy. This podcast it's basically being able to hang out with gazillionaires, which is really fun. I don't know if you guys can hear all that stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to play a little bit of it, and then maybe stop and start going again. Sorry, I'm just getting the comments up and running here as well. So, oh man, good morning, everybody. Man, I was super tired working out today, but we stayed for an hour anyway, so booyah. God, they break, man. Allison, good to see you, sister. Okay, so yes, Josh Waitzkin. I think he sort of goes into some of his background, but it's like kind of ridiculous. He wrote a book called The Art of Learning, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I've listened to it on Audible like 3 or 4 times. It's the kind of book that you need to sort of stop like a lot, just to soak in the God-smacking genius that's just about on in every page or two. Good morning, Katie Carter. So anyway, yeah, let's pop into this. By all means, anytime you think of anything, please drop it in the notes. So we'll listen to a bit of this, and then we will do the work, and then we will move on about our day.
And it's also a highlight reel, in effect, that
volume
you guys,
okay?
many of you, thousands of you have asked me for. And we're going to invite back one of my favorite people on the planet, Josh Waitzkin. Endlessly fascinating guy. Josh Waitzkin, you can find him at joshwaitzkin.com, was the basis for the book and the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer. He was considered a chess prodigy, but he has perfected learning strategies that can be applied to anything by anyone. And I really mean that, including his loves of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a black belt I think he was the first black belt under Phenom Marcelo Garcia. We'll talk more about him. And Tai Chi push hands, in which he was a world champion. These days, he spends his time very quietly coaching the world's top athletes and investors, working to revolutionize education. We've partnered on a number of things there, and tackling his new passion of paddle surfing. And in the latter, very often nearly killing me in the process. I first met Josh after reading his book, The Art of Learning, and as I think I've mentioned, we've become very dear friends.
Empty space.
Josh has no social media, does no interviews, except for my podcast, for which he very often says to me or texts me, "You fuck!" After all, he is from New York City, and avoids nearly all meetings and phone calls. He is perhaps the best I've met. Actually, there's one other, Rick Rubin, who's been on the podcast as well, legendary music producer. He minimizes input to maximize output. And as Josh would say, quote, "I cultivate empty space as a way of life for the creative process," end quote. So you might ask yourself, how are you creating empty space? How are you creating the slack necessary to connect dots that perhaps you haven't connected before or come up with original ideas? Josh is an expert here.
I cultivate empty space as a way of life for the creative process.
Learning the macro from the micro.
Josh really focuses on depth over breadth in everything. He often uses a principle nicknamed learning the macro from the micro. This means focusing on something very small in a field, whether that's in chess, martial arts, or elsewhere, to internalize extremely powerful macro principles that apply everywhere. And I'll give you a few examples. This is also sometimes combined with beginning with the end game. And I will illustrate that. For instance, when Josh gave me a beginner's tutorial on chess, he didn't start with opening moves. Memorizing openings is natural, of course, and nearly everyone does it, but Josh likens it to stealing the test answers from a teacher. You're not learning principles or strategies. You're merely learning a few tricks that will help you beat your novice friends. Instead, Josh took me in the complete reverse, just as his first teacher, Bruce Pandolfini, did with him. So he took off all of the pieces, empty board, and he added 3 back in an endgame scenario, where he would usually finish the game, king and pawn against king. So in this case, through the micro positions of vastly reduced complexity, he was able to force me to focus on the macro. Principles like the power of empty space, opposition, or setting an opponent up for zugzwang, which is a situation where any move he makes will destroy his position. So, by limiting me to a few simple pieces, he hoped that I would learn something limitless, high-level concepts that I could apply anytime against anyone. I've seen Josh do this himself to many things, including, for instance, jiu-jitsu, where he can cover nearly all of the principles of jiu-jitsu, the main tenets that will help you compete at a high level by focusing on a single submission. Again, the end game, called in this case the guillotine, or specifically the Marcelotine from Marcelo Garcia. And after he gave me this tutorial in chess, which was actually part of it was recorded, and there's an extended scene that's available in the TV show I did called The Tim Ferriss Experiment, I went to Washington Square Park and lasted about 10 times longer than I ever have before competing against these street hustlers. And that was literally from practicing no openers, no nothing aside from these high-level principles with 3 pieces on the board. Pretty cool stuff.
If you're studying my game, you're entering my game.
Josh and I spend a lot of time discussing, and in some cases hanging out with or training with, Marcelo Garcia, 5-time world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with whom Josh owns the Marcelo Garcia Academy in New York City, which I highly recommend if you have a chance. They have a very strict no asshole, no bully policy, and it's probably also the cleanest and certainly one of the most competitive Jiu-Jitsu gyms in the world. So, Marcelo. Who's Marcelo? Marcelo is arguably the best grappler of the last 100 years. He's considered the combined Mike Tyson, Wayne Gretzky, and Michael Jordan of his sport. And whereas most competitors are very secretive about their training for competition, their competition prep, Marcelo does the opposite. He routinely records and uploads his exact sparring sessions. In other words, his exact training for major events, which all of his competitors can watch. Josh explains the rationale.
When he was competing in Abu Dhabi Submission Grappling World Championship and Mundials, which is the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championship, we were streaming his sparring sessions every night. So he was basically showing his competitors what he was about to use against them in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks. And his attitude about this, which is completely unique, is if you're studying my game, you're entering my game, and I'll be better at it than you.
I often share exact under-the-hood details of how, for instance, I've built the podcast or put together Kickstarter campaigns and so on. I do this really for 2 reasons, and they're reflective of 2 core beliefs. So let's talk about those. Belief number 1, it's rarely a zero-sum game. In other words, if someone wins, someone else must lose. That's just not the case. It's rarely a zero-sum game in something like podcasting. And the more that I help people with details, the more detailed help I receive in turn. Belief number 2, if it is competitive, I'm simply offering people the details of my game, right? My attention to detail will scare off half.
Sorry, I just need to go back there because this is critical. What he's talking about, I talked to Travis Chan and the Jedis about this weekend. I've talked to Daryl about it. I talked to Derek at LiveFit about it for like a half an hour yesterday. What you get is, or what you give is what you get, and it just ends up being completely and totally true. So I want to go back and he sort of tweaks on this a little bit as far as the help that he gives out, because I think this comes back a little bit later on as well. It's just a really good nugget.
Every night. So he was basically showing his competitors what he was about to use against them in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks. And his attitude about this, which is completely unique, is if you're studying my game, you're entering my game, and I'll be better at it than you.
I often share exact under-the-hood details of how, for instance, I've built the podcast or put together Kickstarter campaigns and so on. I do this really for two reasons, and they're reflective of two core beliefs. So let's talk about those. Belief number one, it's rarely a zero-sum game. In other words, if someone wins, someone else must lose. That's just not the case. It's rarely a zero-sum game in something like podcasting. And the more that I help people with details, the more detailed help I receive in turn. Belief number two, if it is competitive, I'm simply offering people the details of my game, right? My attention to detail will scare off half of the people right off the bat who would have tried. So now we're down to 50% of the people who have heard it or read it or observed it. 40% will try it and be worse than me because it's my game, right? I'm capitalizing on my strengths with my particular strategies and so on. But 10% will try it and be better than me. Now, is this a problem or is it not? And I would just say, see belief number one. That 10% will often reach out to me to teach me exactly what they learned and did to get better results because they are grateful for what I offered in the first place, which was transparency. So call it karma, call it anything that you might like. I call it very, very useful. And plus, it's just a more offensive and not defensive way to live and to perform in a professional arena for me.
Remember the last three turns.
I remember when I went skiing with Billy Kidd, who, as you might recall, was one of the great downhill racers from back in, I think, the 60s Olympic ski team. Awesome dude. Now he's out in Colorado wearing a cowboy hat. Just a timeless guy. Brilliant dude. And, he was saying to me years ago when I first skied with him, Josh, what do you think are the three most important turns of the ski run? And, I've asked that question to a lot of people since. And most people will say the middle because it's the hardest, the beginning because they're getting momentum. Billy describes the three most important turns of the ski run are the last three before you get in the lift. And it's a very, very subtle point. And for those of you who are skiers, you know that that's when the slope is leveled off, there's less challenge. Most people are very sloppy then. They're taking the muscles off of, they're taking the weight off the muscles they've been using. They have bad form. Problem with that is that on the lift ride up, unconsciously, you're internalizing bad body mechanics. As Billy points out, if your last three turns are precise, then what you're internalizing the lift ride up is precision. So I carry this on to, the guys who I train in the finance world, for example, ending the workday with very high quality, which opens up, for one thing, you're internalizing quality overnight.
Thanks to Josh, I now always end training sessions on a good rep, per se. Whether that's acro yoga, you can definitely learn more about that by listening to my episode with Jason Niemer. Gymnastics, check out Coach Sommer. Archery, or other. For instance, even if I have 60 minutes budgeted for a workout, if I hit a fantastic PR, in other words, a personal record at, say, 45 minutes, or do something new particularly well in gymnastics, I pack it in. That's the end of the workout. In the case of archery, which is a new passion of mine, I also use what's called blank bale practice. And a bale, like a hay bale, that you would put a target on and aim for. A blank bale is where I start and end all sessions with 5 to 6 arrows shot by feel alone, eyes closed, into a target that is a mere 10 feet away. So I'm not aiming at anything. And this is similar in many senses to dry firing with firearms or handguns, for instance, to try to minimize any type of flinching that you might have in anticipation of the shot. And you're able to then kinesthetically incorporate the fine motor control that will ultimately aid you in other circumstances. One of Josh's favorite writers, Hemingway, had a practice of ending his writing sessions mid-flow and mid-sentence. This way, he knew exactly where to start the next day, and he could reliably both end and start his sessions with confidence.
To turn it on, learn to turn it off, and vice versa.
Marcelo Garcia, who we were talking about, one of my most beautiful memories is of him in World Championship right before going into the semifinals. Raucous bleacher, everyone's screaming, yelling. He's sleeping in the bleacher. He'd wake him up. He'd sort of stumble into the ring. You've never seen a guy more relaxed before going into a World Championship fight. And then he can turn it off so deeply, and man, when he goes in the ring, you can't turn it on with any more intensity than he can. And his ability to turn it off is directly aligned with how intensely he can turn it on. So training people to do this, have stress and recovery, undulation throughout their day.
The little things are the big things.
We're talking about Marcelo talking about or embodying the principle of quality in all these little ways. These little ways you could say don't matter, but they add up to matter hugely.
Oh, I think the little things are the big things,
Yeah.
right? Because they're a reflection. I mean, this might sound cliched, but it's like how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And
It's such a beautiful and critical principle. And we don't, most people think they can wait around for the big moments to turn it on. But if you don't cultivate turning it on as a way of life in the little moments, there's hundreds of times more little moments than big, then there's no chance in the big moments.
Just go around for life.
I mean, lateral thinking or thematic thinking, the ability to take a lesson from one thing and transfer it over to another, I think is one of the most important disciplines that any of us can cultivate or ways of being. And it's something that Jack and I have from a really young age. We began to cultivate this from when he was really small around this principle of go around. We would initially, it was like, the first time it happened is that he was really tiny. He was trying to get in, we were in a little cottage, staying in a little cottage on Martha's Vineyard, tiny little cottage in a big field. And he was trying to get in one door and he couldn't, but he could get in the other door. And I said, Jack, go around. And he looked at me and then he went around. And then go around became a language for us physically. If you can't go one way, you go around to another way. But then it became a language for us in terms of solving puzzles and in terms of any way, time you were running with an obstacle, go around. And then working with the metaphor of go around opened up this way that we would just have dialogue around connecting things, right? Taking a way of a principle from one thing and applying it to something else. And we've had a lot of fun with that.
Embrace your funk.
That's a term my buddy Graham, who's a dear friend of ours, who comes on our surf adventures with us. He's a brilliant thought partner.
embrace the funk. Could you explain that?
Yeah, we have to embrace our funk. We have to figure out you think about the entanglement of genius and madness, right? Or brilliance and eccentricity. Understanding that entanglement is always a precursor to working with anybody who's trying to be world class at something, because that entanglement is fundamental to their being. And they have to ultimately embrace their funk, embrace their eccentricity, embrace what makes them different, and then build on it.
Who do you pick when your ego seems threatened?
It's very interesting to observe who the top competitors pick out when they're 5 rounds into the sparring sessions and they're completely gassed. The ones who are in the steepest growth curve look for the hardest guy there, the one who will beat him up, who might beat him up, while others will look for someone who they can take a break on.
The importance of language on a rainy day.
One of the biggest mistakes that I observed in the first year of Jack's life, or year or two.
I want to hold on this for a second. Dang it. I might have to listen to it again.
He's a brilliant thought partner.
Embrace the funk. Could you explain that?
Okay, so who do you pick when your ego seems threatened? I backed it up a little bit too much, but we'll be all right. So the way that I took this, because I mean, not all of us are in sort of competitive sports and different things like that, but to me, this really brings to mind trying to pay attention to what you do when you're tired, right? They're basically talking about like super high performers in everything. When they're tired is when they'll do one more rep, when they'll go against one more difficult challenge. And that really, I think just keeping that in your head, next time you're tired and you don't really want to do anything, do something that's actually hard. Do something that is actually challenging, and just see what happens. It might be good to just even just be conscious of how you react when you're tired.
Yeah, we have to embrace our funk. We have to figure out
And embrace the funk, yo.
Think about the entanglement of genius and madness, right? Or brilliance and eccentricity. Understanding that entanglement is always a precursor to working with anybody who's trying to be world class at something, because that entanglement is fundamental to their being. And they have to ultimately embrace their funk, embrace their eccentricity, embrace what makes them different, and then build on it.
Who do you pick when your ego seems threatened?
It's very interesting to observe who the top competitors pick out when they're 5 rounds into the sparring sessions and they're completely gassed. The ones who are in the steepest growth curve look for the hardest guy there, the one who will beat him up, who might beat him up, while others will look for someone who they can take a break on.
The importance of language on a rainy day.
One of the biggest
I love this
mistakes
one.
that I observed in the first year of Jack's life, or year or two of Jack's life, that I observed with parents, is that they have this language around weather being good or bad. And whenever it was raining, they'd be like, it's bad weather. You'd hear, moms, babysitters, dads talk about, it's bad weather, we can't go out. Or it's good weather, we can go out. And so that means that somehow we're externally reliant on conditions being perfect in order to be able to go out and have a good time. So Jack and I never missed a single storm. Every rainstorm, I don't think we've missed one storm other than maybe one when he was sick. But I don't think we've missed a single storm, rain or snow, going outside and romping in it. And we've developed this language around how beautiful it was. And so whenever there's a rainy day, Jack says, look, Dad, it's such a beautiful rainy day. And we go out and we play in it. And, I wanted him to have this internal locus of control, right? To not be reliant on external conditions being just so.
Hey guys, this is Tim again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number one, this is 5 Bullet Friday. Do you want to get a short email?
So yeah, the Tim Ferriss podcast is awesome, and it's actually getting better. There are, I believe, at least one, I think 2 full 3-hour-long podcasts with Josh Waitzkin, and it's like hanging out with a couple of geniuses. That's why I love Tim Ferriss' podcast the most. When I'm going to be doing a bunch of housework later on today, I can assure you I will be listening to Tim Ferriss or something very much like it. Anyway. Eric says, I was up till midnight getting that GoPro video ready to send you, Corey. I was tired, but I pushed my limit. Might have to have a 5 o'clock pot of coffee tonight. Yeehaw. All right, guys. So let's hashtag do the work. Eric, maybe not today because you might be a little bit tired, but we need to start on the blog really, really soon. My computer gets in today, so I'm going to be editing and reposting all these videos, and I want a blog upon which to put them. Because I'm actually going to start YouTube as well. Well, hello, Rhodey. You want to say hi? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on up here. Say hello to everybody. Hey, bud. How you doing this morning? Yeah. Oh, you like that? Is your brother being a jerk again? Okay. So yeah, 3 things that happened yesterday. Let's fill up this comment section. Rhodey, relax, please. Man, that poor little guy is a nutter. All right, Eric. Yeah, so I think we're just gonna work on. Well, you know what? Maybe we could just do both. We'll experiment that. Let's talk today, Eric, and we'll get it squared away, and maybe see how hard it is to do 3 posts, which means I have to write a coffee on the dock thing. Oh, you guys need to see something. Check this out. Yesterday we were talking about. Let me see if I can get this nailed down here. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to show you now. Sorry, guys. We were talking about different logos, the Coffee on the Dock show, and so Greg mentioned this. Excuse me, this Illustrator guy, and so I found him on Facebook and befriended him aggressively, and he came up with the most unbelievable rendition that I could ever imagine. This is exactly what we were talking about. See, Joner? Yeah, like, what? Even? Hold on, I need a bigger version here. It's just so effing good. So he's a little monkey riding an EM drive, and he's got a little coffee mug. Notice that there's a Solo Pasco logo on the coffee mug, which I think is perfect. Hashtag coffee on the dog. How awesome is that? Like, come on. It's just too good. Oh, man. What do you guys think about putting a bumper sticker on the EM drive that says, suck it, physics? Anyway. That's not really the point. I'm going to leave that up there because it's just so brilliant that I just want to look at it all day. Let me change some stuff around here. Yoink. Okay, so yeah, let's do the work. 3 amazing things that happened yesterday. Let's write them into the comments. Please. So yeah, Eric, with the blog thing, and we'll talk about this after, but there's going to be a way to systemize it so we can do it really, really fast. We just have to figure it out. Karen says I've danced in the rain with my kids. I highly recommend it. I completely agree, man. I mean, that's, I used to go hiking in -40 like every day. People down here would call that bad weather. I would, but it was just weather. where I was from. So we just did it. You know, it's, but I like the analogy is more important than whether or not you go dancing in the rain. Being dependent on external circumstances to dictate what you do is something that I think all of us fall into. And if we can at least start to put a crack in that dam, or even a crack in that pattern, then I think it'll open up opportunities for us that we just wouldn't have seen before. You know. Anyway, I'm excited about that too. So 3 things that happened yesterday. Let's do some work up in this biatch. So I had dinner with the Jedis last night. We were doing a bunch of brainstorm work, and it was brilliant. We're talking about starting an accountability program for Goals and Gratitude. We're talking about doing a potentially monthly event, although with Christmas it might be postponed until January. That's just going to be for a few people, and obviously we talked about the quarterly event and the annual event, and all that cool stuff. Daryl, you will be happy to know that we're going to start a program called Friends of the Farm. That's going to be for people who want to be patrons of the farm. You're also going to get like really, really awesome deals with them. It's kind of like a subscription thing, but mostly it's just for people that want to actually support what they're doing to do it. So anyway, had an amazing dinner. Got to chat with Maya too, who's just so smart that it's like really frightening. She just does not seem 12 to me in any way, shape, or form. And I had my first brainstorming session as a workout. I'm telling you right now, I never would have thought that this would work. But holy macaroni and cheese. It was awesome. I can't wait for all of you guys to meet Derek. He's actually coming to do Goals and Gratitude with me tomorrow morning. So, yeah. You guys will, in fact, meet D-Money, I guess. We'll call him that. Anyway. Third one. Getting back to working out was pretty fun. And then, how could you have made yesterday better? For me, I said I was going to try and do some housework, and I didn't get any done. And that goes to the whole integrity bit. Been thinking about that since yesterday. Anyway, what is the date today? 11/29. So every once in a while they do weekly challenges, and this is my favorite song from 5 years ago is, I don't even know what that would be. That's an interesting question. So my favorite song from 5 years ago is, and you should listen to it today, or just listen to an old song that is one of your favorites, because I honestly wouldn't know. Yeah. I'm gonna get to all the comments, but I just saw Jillian's comment. Eating better would have made my day better. That is mine, Jillian, like every other day. It's an ongoing process. Okay, so once you're done 3 things from yesterday and anything that might have made yesterday better, we'll do our 3 gratitudes. Gong. Just kind of, yeah. Okay. So, grateful for Derek. Had an amazing brainstorming session yesterday about all sorts of different things. And his workouts over the last 2 days have made me so I can barely walk and barely lift things with my arms. It's kind of awesome and scary. Wanted to do a quick shout out to Daryl. Grateful for Daryl for lots of reasons, but I mean, yesterday, I called him out of the blue. Just had some questions about, just some things that I was thinking about. And, dude, your insights are really awesome. And, yeah, excited to have you around. It's good cake. And Travis and Shannon, the work that they do, I mean, you guys all saw it. The work they do is amazing. Like knowing them is making me better. I say it's just selfishly. I don't know. I'm grateful for what they do for everybody. I'm really grateful for what they've done for me. So thank you guys. I know they're driving, so they can't see this, but whatever. I'll just beam it at them with the woo. Anyway, what would make today great, guys? So for me, I want to get an oodle, which is a technical term for a lot of laundry done. I'm going to be getting the computer set up, and the first video that I'm testing is a video for the Great Spirit Farm for the yoga retreat that's going on. So I want to basically use everything I want to get that tested out before I go to bed tonight. That would be really cool. And we'll get the floors clean. I had the floors clean the other day, and then we had the windows open and the dogs, and they got immediately dirty. Stupid floors. And I'm still, as it turns out, you know what? I was going to say I'm not good at calendars. You know what? I am good at calendars. I'm getting better at calendars all the time. I'm so awesome at calendars, babes. It's an affirmation. You can't laugh at me for an affirmation. Thanks. I mean, I don't know how you could stop yourself from laughing at me when I make a statement like that, but please try. Oh man, okay, let's get on some comments here. Oh, excuse me. So many of the comments going on right now. Trying to understand the language of touch. Learn it. Don't be out of touch. Know where you are in space and time. That's always good. Eric said, applied my learning from this past weekend to a friend and we all cried. The weekend flowed into Monday for sure. That's awesome, dude. Jillian, number 1, Derek kicking my booty in gear. Number 2, my amazing husband sending me flowers to tell me great job. Aw, yeah, Tommy's awesome. Number 3, an hour laying in bed with no distractions and just getting my mind right. That sounds pretty darn good. Eric is talking about Paulina and Renee and myself. If everyone would friend Renee Mercedes, just let her know we are supporting her and her goal. I will for sure do that. All right. Yoink. Okay. Rested. This is Daryl. Rested. Started a database on homeless children. Oh, nice. Started getting ideas for my yard art. Cool beans. Deanna. Number 1. Got my own truck and out of a rental. Nice. I have a daughter who always has someone else and their best interest at heart, and a husband who doesn't think like I do but embraces my ways anyway. That's a pretty good combination. Alrighty. I wonder if I can do this faster on my phone. Tiffany says 3 things. My husband cleaned and took the Christmas decorations out before I was home from work. It was pretty smooth work for me. Work day for me. And the 3rd thing is that I finished my side gig work day ahead of schedule. Also, I'm at the gym right now. Woohoo! That's awesome. Awesome sauce. So, Jillian's goal today is laundry. I mean, you gots to have goals. It's kind of mine too. So I'm picking up what you're laying down. Dina says, made some great connections last night at our market in Tampa. Number 2, I had a meltdown and learned many lessons from it. Dina, we should talk today. Number 3, got Celeste to get home. All righty then. Daryl says, no, and this whole group makes me better. Well, yeehaw. Ken says, oops, 3, my brain. All right. Tracy completed 19-hour day project completion. Also grateful for all the community momentum. And Tracy, when are you coming to the gym? This is what I want to know. Paulina, it'd be great to go to the whole day without crying. We'll get there eventually, I'm sure. Jillian, catching up on my work after being out for 5 days would be great. Jillian, by the way, I've been asking these questions to my kids nightly, and it is the best thing ever. It changes their whole look for the day. That's awesome, Jillian. Like just the 3 things you're grateful for and stuff. That's really cool. Tracy, today would be great if I had a successful inspection at work. All right. Shannon, feel free to leave us a review on our Facebook page. Oh, heck yeah. If you guys could, Shannon just posted the link to the Great Spirit Firm Facebook page. For sure, leave a review, please. I mean, that just makes sense. Not only that, but when you have done the review, either message me on this thread or private message me to make sure that everybody's done it. Get some accountability up in this business. Karen, today would be great if I could complete all the chores I need to get done, and I hope the brainstorming session with Tammy about future ventures is productive. I'm absolutely certain that it will be. Angela, I'm grateful for my girls. They are actually very, very cool. My thought processing and the ability to start following through with healthy choices in hopes of feeling better and being more physically active. Parkour, holy crap, that's aggressive. Jonas says, don't sweat the stuff. Sorry. Pet the sweaty things? Yeah, you're funny. Shannon, I'm grateful in advance for Travis healing from Lyme disease and the funds to get there. You know what? If there was ever an excuse for me to start practicing doing the whole grateful in advance thing, I am joining you on that train. Eric says, Jillian, I'm with you on that. Thought a lot last night about eating better. Well, make a plan. And then today, do it. Says the guy who, also struggles with that. But that's the only thing that works. Yeah, Eric says you only run as good as the fuel you fill yourself with. That is definitely true. All right, guys. I'm going to go and do exactly that, actually. I'm feeling a distinct need for a protein shake in my life. So, yeah, I'll see you guys on Coffee in the Dock if you would like to join me for that. And then at 10, of course. Wednesday at 6:30 at Gildog, we're going to be doing Goals and Gratitude meetup. And we talking with everybody, going through some one-on-one stuff with people that want to do that then. And we'll be hanging out for the drum circle. So I'll have some more time for one-on-one stuff after that as well. So that is tomorrow at 6:30. All right. Yeah. We will, talk to you guys later. And by later, I mean like 23 minutes from now. Cheers. Boink.